Hi, my name is Travis. Welcome to Travis Brick's YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about some new aspects to the city that I've just added in this last total redo of the city. And you can kind of see it over here. It's this facade we're going to talk about today. You can kind of see here I use some wood supports and I also use Lego. And we're going to take a much closer look at to how I use wood and Lego to kind of make the best of both worlds and minimize the use of bricks. This is an up close look at what exists underneath this entire raised section of my city. As you can see, there's some wood supports with some melamine on top, and then I have little self-leveling table legs there that just screw up and down to adjust to get the correct height so that I can line up with bricks. And then you can see out front here, I support the very edge of this Mills plate with brick so that I get the perfect transition all the way in to this front piece that's attached to this bottom. So I kind of bridged the two. Before I was trying to run wood all the way out to the edge and I could never quite get it level. So what I decided to do was Mills plates are strong enough to support, a little bit of a gap. So I thought, well, I would just bridge that gap from the back to the front, and then the Mills plate can make up that little bit of difference. I mean, I'm talking about maybe a 1/16 of an inch difference, possibly even less than that, to bridge that gap and so that it fits a little bit more snugly. And then this is the whole front, and these are also all Mills plated sections as well. So they all come apart also, which I will show you here in a minute. So this is a better view of the area in question. This is brand new to my city layout. I opened this up when I split the city apart. And in fact, just the other day, I added this extra little one base plate here to create even more space, because I think I'm going to put the two ships that I just purchased last week, the two vintage ships, the Caribbean Clipper and one of the pirate ships, is going to live here. So that way I don't have to find space somewhere else for them. I think it'll look nice. And I thought the extra width would help as well. But today we're going to be focusing on this little area. And I'm going to pull this apart and show you kind of the individual pieces. It's all based on the Mills system. Everything I do is based on Mills. So I promise you it's all Mills. And I'll show you how it comes apart into pieces. Okay, so I cleared a little bit out of the way so that you would have to sit here and watch me fumble with all of it. But this front part breaks away as well, and this is all Mills together with a single pin. And that just snaps together, and that just kind of keeps this whole thing kind of together. I will probably find a way to hide some out in this area as well to kind of keep it all locked in place. And I will probably eventually add some sort of connector here into this. As you can see, there are pinholes for all of this as well. So I will probably do something about connecting into this part as well. But as you can see, this part, as soon as I remove this post, you can see this top part's not all quite finished. I don't have quite all the tile to do that yet. But as you can see, as I pull this apart, you can see, and let me actually take you in just a little bit closer there. You can see that there's actually a pinhole here that slides in there. Now this is really kind of mostly supported already by this. So this is really just kind of extra support. But using these Technic pins, and this is just the Technic pin to the Technic stud pin to just this guy. I know I'm really using really specific terms right now. So that way it kind of holds it and locks it in there so it doesn't float up or down. You can see there's a little bit of a height discrepancy there when I first stick it in, but that kind of evens it out. So that way it all kind of locks together and it is all one kind of unit. Before I put these pins in, this was actually kind of floating up and down a little bit. So putting the pins in it really kind of solidified that lock together. I do not lock everything in my layout together. In fact, very little is actually pinned together, like truly pinned together. The only thing that is truly pinned together is the roads. All of the roads are locked together, and then a lot of the facades are pinned into the Mills plates as well. But for the most part, everything else is just kind of sitting there because I like to be able to move it easily. And if I had to move, like, let's say I wanted to move this, move like the boutique hotel, like I'd have to unpin like 4 things from it to be able to do that. So I rarely pin everything together, but this kind of pinned but not pinned has been a pretty happy medium for me for a lot of situations. So I will do this. I will also use the pins with just the single little stud sticking out, just to kind of act as a little bit of a catch, to hold things together. So let's take a look at how I built these guys. And I built them all a little bit differently based on what bricks I have available. But we'll take a look at the basic design of one of these next. Okay, so this is the general base plate of this guy. Okay, now this guy is built on only half a base plate, to make room for supports that are kind of back underneath. But this one, I don't have that worry, and in fact, it will actually be useful because I need to potentially attach some train track to the back to kind of keep that in place. So having a full base plate here will actually be good because actually this wall is going to stop right at about where this Duplo is. So the front half of this is just like a normal mills plate. I'm not going to talk too much about mills. There's plenty of other videos about how to do mills. Um, this is just the front little bit of a stock mills plate. I use all the single pin holes rather than the 3 pin holes, um, just because a couple reasons. First off, when I'm doing actual buildings, they come with them. So when I am building a modular and I'm putting it directly onto mills, I'll actually take these guys, these 1x2s, um, out of the actual set and replace them with solid 1x2s and use those into the mills plate. Um, but anyways, this is just your normal mills plate. It can be whatever. It doesn't matter to me what color because it's going to be covered up with rock and other things. So it's just purely plate for the sake of plate. Um, and then this back section is probably going to be the most interesting thing of this video. So I I use a lot of Duplo and even Quatro. Okay, so that's Quatro. When I'm doing my supports, and that's mostly because I don't have a huge brick selection. I've only been in this hobby pretty seriously for about a year and a half now. So my bulk brick selection is not as extensive as some of the other city builders. So anywhere that I can save brick, I definitely do. And now I know I could go out and buy, a bunch of these. Um, but honestly, for probably about the same price, I can get this. And I'm also of the opinion that the less connection points that you have, the stronger it is. Now, granted, this is all straight down force, so I mean, it's not like there's any shearing force or, trying to like bend force. That's really an issue, but I still think the same concept applies. The one thing to know about using Duplo and Quattro is that they only move one section at a time. So you can use Duplo on system and then Quattro on Duplo, but you can't use Quattro on system. It just doesn't work. Like I'm trying to stick this on this, but this will obviously fit as these all did. Um, and then this fits right onto that. So you have to use them in the order system, Duplo, Quattro, and then back the other way as well. So I got my first layer of Quattro down. I actually build with these gaps in here, again, just to save brick. Again, think about if you had to do this with individual blocks, that you would be able to maybe do this all the way up, like kind of catacomb type thing. But, you would still use a ton of blocks to get to that height that fast. And then because I need to get down to system again, I do a layer of Duplo on top of that. I usually like to span that gap with a 2x4 or something, but I am out of 2x4 right now, so it's all fine. Um, so there's that, and then I cap this off with a full layer of system. And I don't use good bricks. Like I usually buy bricks just specifically for this that are like the cheapest that are available. They're usually pretty beat up. They got some chew marks. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Again, I'm making sure to bridge that gap with something, um, so that it's not just totally loose the whole way up. And then, so now I'm all the way back to system. So instead of using a whole bunch of system to get to this height, I just used Duplo, Quatro, Duplo, then back to system to be able to put this on top and then work a little bit of a support system for this top to combine the rocks, which I'm about to put here, in with this in the back. Okay, so let's start to place the rock. And the rock, the rock comes all the way up front here like this. And so 3 rock walls, or burps in the technical term, are 2 studs short. So I do one of two things depending on what I do, and I will vary this from section to section to give it a little bit of randomness looking. Is I will either leave a gap somewhere in the middle that I'll fill in with, or I'll do that and fill in just 2 small gaps. But this is kind of my more preferred way, to be honest. Actually, let me grab. I have pieces that are already. I like to just leave one big gap because I think it's a little bit easier to fill than it is to fill 2 smaller gaps. Um, and so I'll also connect all this in and fill this in before I stick the next layer on top. So there isn't really a right way or a wrong way to go about doing this. I actually, when I'm sorting stuff, will actually sort out all my dark gray and all my light gray into separate piles, specifically because of situations like this, um, and to kind of make my life easier later on. Um, when I go to do rock work. So rock work meaning I'll add in a bunch of like slopes and such to like kind of disguise the fact that this is a burp. So I'll do things like this and this. And I'll really try to disguise it as much as possible. And I'll do some more when I get this next layer on. So then, if we look at this next one back, I leave one available and then go on up. But as you can see, this leaves a lot of this unsupported, right? Like this is not very secure because it's literally just grabbing by just a couple of studs. Um, so this is not very secure. So I actually built a little support system in the back here. And so what that support system is, let me see if I can do this in a way that will show you, is it's 2 Duplo blocks. Again, I'm just using Duplo because that's what I have available and it fills up space really, really, really fast. Um, Another one there. And then I also will use these types of Duplo blocks for this type of situation because this little curve part doesn't really matter. If I was doing this in like a wall part, it would be annoying because you would have that empty space. But here, it doesn't really matter at all. Okay. So then after that, I add 2 system blocks on top to catch the inside point. And actually, in the middle, I use these guys. And then this one actually gets something like this to make sure that I catch all points. Okay. So now I'm at the same height as this. And so when I add these on, they're actually, oops, gosh, I'm trying to stick on upside down. They're actually fully supported now rather than partially supported. So even though there's this gap here, which I could actually, and sometimes I do, um, I don't think this is really that critical because you got this piece here. So If you really want, you could fill that in. But at the end of the day, that's not a make or break thing. Um, I'll just go on across. And again, leaving that gap right there. And then I got to fill in that gap. So I'll do something a little different on this one. Do this piece like that. Maybe this piece going like that, just to add a little bit of contrast. And I'm just going to make my life easy. Let's just cap that off like that. Another 2 by there. Just throw a brick. Another brick there, another brick there. And then there we have at least our front part of our rock wall. So then the next thing is I do this little kind of wall section. And this is the same basic layout that I have across my entire city as far as the tops of walls and coming up into the city. So anything that's raised has this exact same front spacing and grill or and profile bricks and all that the whole way around the city. So next I'm gonna build that section. Okay. I grabbed some parts to do this next little section with. So first things up is getting this bottom all together. And I'll be honest, I even use pieces like this because you know what? You never see the back side. So as long as you don't see it, it's good to go. So I've used sticker pieces. I've used all kinds of random pieces to hide in the background of these wall sections. And honestly, I don't even care if the grays are a little bit off because I think it adds a little bit of color to it. Now, I will say, I still do try to keep, again, good building techniques in this just to make it just a little bit stronger. Not that it needs a lot of strength, but man, just striking out here. There we go. So again, I kind of hide the color pieces in the back because that's the part you're gonna see. So there's no reason to, waste a whole bunch of gray brick when you're not gonna see hardly any of it. And I really try to scoop up as much of the long stuff as possible because it makes it so much easier than trying to piece together a whole bunch of little tiny pieces. Although I did that very early on in my city building, I was scraping together as much as I could without having to acquire more. Um, so I mean, I definitely did peddle some very small pieces together. If you look very closely at some of my older city stuff, you'll see that skimping a little bit. And then I use the straight side just to kind of break up the monotony of a straight flat wall. I think it just adds a little bit of texture to it. These are honestly the one piece when I'm ordering parts that I always forget to order, and I use so many of them. For every base plate, I use 12 of them. So they go by quick. So if you're doing any sort of accent pieces, make sure that you order enough parts to account for that. And then do this. Then I need to get two. Okay, so there's that. Again, the front side you can't see that all those colorful bricks are on the backside, right? I mean, even the ends you won't see because they're, you know, right next to each other. Um, so I really try to maximize the use of all those bricks. And offsetting this by this one stud really secures up your next plate layer because it's almost impossible unless you're using an odd number plate to get them to line up evenly with a stud, even by accident. So then we got another layer of gray brick going across. Oop. Like 10. Do I got a 10? 12. Another 12. There it is. There's a 10. Okay, awesome. And again, gonna fill the back side with multicolored. Oop, that lines up. With multicolored because it doesn't matter. Up 2 like that. And then, so that's where I'm going to stop because this next layer, you can see, so we've done all the way up to there. And this next layer is the layer that goes across to support the back side. And this sits right here. And I'm going to grab 2 plates to stick there. So with these burps, you tend to need a lot of these 2x6 plates to kind of fill in those gaps. And then this sits right across here like so. Push it down and it locks in. Okay, so we got that far. Now we're going to talk about kind of spanning this gap so it keeps this from being so tipsy against this. Okay, I got some parts. Let's get to building this kind of top part. This top part's a little rough because it's really kind of wide and long, obviously, and you need to support all of these splice points. So I have a couple of 2x that I use and some 1x. Let's go ahead and start to get to this. Now, one of the things to know as well is that this is kind of an awkward point. They're not actually quite level, so I have to use a plate to get me to the correct level there. And then when I do this, that lines up perfectly and locks it in. Then I need to kind of assess to see where this next point needs to go. Okay. Again, this is all going to get covered, so the color of this doesn't really matter at all. We'll need to put another gray line of bricks up front here. Just try not to line. There we go. I'll definitely offset them like this. And there we go. I'll need to put a line of gray across the front here. Again, I have to use gray in the front so that when you're looking at the front side, because you see this part. Now, this top part is going to get completely tiled, so that's why this back part doesn't really matter, but this front part does. And then I'll need to run another couple strips down here, but let me show you the other parts back here. So on the back side of this, I just kind of put a couple of bricks kind of evenly spaced out along the back here, because this is actually what, oops, that's not evenly spaced. Let's do there. This is actually what the other mills plate from the city will actually sit on. So I just kind of evenly space these out a little bit, just so that there's a little bit of support under there, like so. And then we got to put our pins in. So our pins need to sit also one plate higher. So that'll sit right there because I've already got the plate extended over from the other one. And just like that on that one. So this is where the other Mills plate will lock right into that. Let me grab a couple other plates and then I'll show you how that all goes together. Okay, I got some more plates to finish this up. You'll see, so if I had an 8 wide like I did back here, I wouldn't need this one extra little bit of row. But I was out of 8 by plates. And then you need one more row in the back here to fill this in. This also locks in these Technic pins as well. And there's that. Now, sometimes what I'll do is you can see how there's a little bit of flex in here and even over there. And so while it's not needed per se, I will sometimes add in some extra brick in there. So on this side, I'm kind of looking for about the center there of that. And then on this side, I obviously need to do, I need to add a plate on the bottom to support it or to get it to the right height. But then I should probably span this a little bit. And so actually what I'm going to do is, oops, actually extend this out this way like that. And that extra little plate there will kind of help support that. So I'm going to actually stick that in there. And it just kind of firms all that up just a little bit. Um, and once you get tile on top, the tile will really do a lot to kind of get it all homogenized into one thing. So then there's that, and then you take a Mills plate. This will slide right in there, and you can see it's all one level now. One other thing that I want to show you is that this Mills plate, I use both the 3 or the 1, and they all fit. So this one's a 3, this one's a 1, and they all fit. So that's the other beauty of using this one is that it fits whether you're working with someone else that uses these or someone that uses these. Um, I tend to use these when I want something that's going to be a little more permanently stuck together, and I'll fill at least 2 of the holes with pins to really lock it really well together. But in this situation, it's just purely to hold it to keep it from moving side to side and up and down. So then the top of this will get tiled in my all my other patterns, and it'll blend in with all the rest of it. So this is the placement for this one. It'll be right here in line with this road and into this part. So this will eventually slide over there, but there's still a lot of work to be done on this side. You also notice I need to add in the little green strip along the front here. And I'm probably going to make it a little curvier than this side. This side was just a test. So there's still a lot of work to be done here, and especially on this side, I need to re-level off this platform, and then level out this little extension piece, which will be what my next video is about adding this extension and redoing this side of the layout. But so for now, I'll leave you with this side because this side actually looks much prettier and mostly done. So the other side will look just like this in the very near future, hopefully. Thank you for watching, and if you like this, make sure you subscribe, and stay tuned. And drop some comments below if you are just now learning about how Duplo and Quatro fits together, or any other questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks, y'all.